She asked the millionaire to pretend for one night, not knowing he was about to make it real. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We have noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It is quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let us keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character, Hook 20. Hook Muy Seconds. One night, she asked a stranger to pretend, never realizing he would make every word of that lie come true. The ballroom shimmered in gold and crystal, laughter echoing off the marble walls. Waiters glided between tables carrying trays of champagne, and every guest seemed polished, perfect, untouchable. At the far edge of that glittering crowd stood Claire Evans, clutching the strap of her second-hand dress as if it were armor. She had been hired only to decorate this Christmas charity gala, but tonight, she had made a mistake. She had come alone, and that was a sin in this world of power couples and glossy magazine smiles. Her ex, now engaged to the daughter of the hotel's owner, had already made sure everyone knew she was the poor decorator who thought she belonged here. His mocking laughter still echoed in her mind. Claire's breath trembled as she slipped behind a column, trying to hide the heat of humiliation burning her cheeks. Her job, her reputation, even next month's rent, all of it depended on surviving this night without falling apart. That was when she saw him. At the bar stood a man in a tailored black suit, tall, calm, watching the room with a kind of quiet distance. His name, though she did not know it yet, was Liam Hart, a self-made millionaire who had built an empire of boutique resorts along the coast. He had come only because his assistant insisted. His world was full of fake smiles, and he had long stopped believing in sincerity. Claire hesitated, then walked toward him, her pulse racing. "Hi," she said softly, forcing a smile. "I need to ask you something completely crazy." He turned, his gray eyes steady. "Try me," she swallowed. "Can you pretend to be my date? Just for tonight, please." Liam blinked once, surprised. Around them, music swelled, lights shimmered, and the room spun with elegant chaos. She looked like someone on the edge of breaking honest, desperate, real. "Why me?" he asked quietly. "Because," she whispered, "you look like the only man here who feels as out of place as I do." For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then Liam exhaled, almost smiling. "One night only, one night," she promised. They walked back into the crowd side by side, their story improvised in whispers. Old friends, reunited, after years apart. Heads turned, cameras flashed, and for the first time that evening, Claire felt her lungs fill again, as if she could finally breathe. She did not know that the man beside her was the owner of the hotel where she worked. She did not know that by midnight, the pretend story they built together would begin to feel dangerously real. But as he leaned closer, his voice low enough for only her to hear, Liam said, "Let us give them a show they will never forget." And when his hand brushed hers, the line between pretend and truth quietly disappeared. The music faded into the next song as Claire and Liam moved through the crowd like they had always belonged there. Her hand trembled slightly on his arm, but he carried it with quiet confidence, every motion deliberate and calm. The cameras that once mocked her now flashed in admiration. For the first time in years, Claire felt unseen judgment melt away. They found a quiet spot near the balcony doors, where the air from outside drifted in with the scent of pine and city rain. Claire finally exhaled. "You did not have to help me," she said softly, "but thank you." Liam looked down at her, his tone even. "Everyone deserves a way to save face. Consider it a favor between strangers." She smiled faintly. "Then I owe you." He shook his head. "No debts, just rules." He pulled a folded napkin from his pocket and wrote 3 lines with the hotel's gold pen. "Rule 1, he said, handing it to her. "This act lasts only until midnight. Rule 2, no questions about each other's lives. Rule 3, we walk away when the clock strikes 12. Claire laughed softly, the sound half relief, half disbelief. "You make it sound like a business deal." Liam's eyes caught the chandelier light, steel gray and unreadable. "It is easier that way." They returned to the ballroom, where a slow song began to play. "Airy Wud," Liam offered his hand. For a second, she hesitated, then took it. The moment their fingers touched, a strange calm spread through her. He led her across the dance floor, guiding her steps with the ease of someone who had learned to control every room he entered. People watched. The whispers started again, but this time they carried curiosity, not mockery. Someone said, "Who is she?" Another voice answered, "His girlfriend, apparently." The lie rippled through the crowd like fire catching silk. As the music swelled, Liam leaned in slightly. "Keep your head up. They believe what you show them." Claire nodded, pretending confidence. "You are surprisingly good at this." He smiled just enough for her to see. "I have spent most of my life pretending." For a heartbeat, something heavy lingered between them. Loneliness, recognizing loneliness. Then the applause broke the spell. Later, near the dessert table, her ex approached with his fiancée on his arm. His smirk returned. "Claire, I see you have traded." "Up," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Before she could answer, Liam turned toward him. "Traded up?" His voice was calm but sharp. "You should know that some things cannot be bought or traded." He placed his hand gently on Claire's shoulder. "Class, for example." The man's grin vanished. Guests nearby fell silent. Claire felt her pulse thunder in her chest, a mix of pride and disbelief. Liam's words carried enough authority to end any conversation. As the ex walked away in silence, Liam whispered, "That was your revenge. Use it wisely." Claire looked up at him, her voice low. "Why did you do that for me?" He shrugged. "I intend to make it convincing." When the clock struck 11:45, the music dimmed, and the host raised a toast to generosity and new beginnings. Claire stood beside Liam, the borrowed ring still glinting on her finger, and wondered what would happen when midnight came. Would they really walk away? As if none of this had happened. She glanced at him. He was staring out at the city lights beyond the glass walls, distant again, unreachable. There was something in his eyes that did not fit the role of a stranger, something deeper, hidden behind his quiet strength. Outside, the first snow of the night began to fall. Inside, the contract between them was already starting to blur. Midnight came and went, but neither of them moved. The gala was fading, guests drifting out through the glass doors with laughter and glitter clinging to their coats. Claire stood beside Liam near the grand staircase, her heart heavy with the quiet realization that she did not want this act to end. Liam finally spoke, his tone steady but softer than before. "You should go. The deal was until midnight." She managed a small smile. "I know. I just wanted to thank you again." He studied her face, as if memorizing the way the lights played across her eyes. "You have already thanked me enough. Go home, Miss Evans." The formality stung more than she expected. She turned to leave, her heels echoing against the marble floor. But as she reached the door, the cold air rushed in, carrying the scent of winter rain. She stopped and looked back. Liam was still there, standing alone, his expression unreadable. For a brief moment, their eyes met across the empty hall. Something passed between them unspoken, real, and then she stepped into the night. The next morning, Claire woke to sunlight cutting through her thin curtains. The world felt quieter, smaller. Her phone buzzed with a dozen unread messages. Her coworkers had seen the photos. "Who was that man? Are you dating him?" Her hands shook as she scrolled through the headlines. There it was, front page on a local business site. "Hotel owner's secret date stuns gala guests." Her stomach dropped. She read the article twice before it hit her. The man she had begged for help, the one who called himself a stranger, was the owner of the entire hotel chain, the millionaire host of the event, Liam Hart. A cold rush of embarrassment swept over her. She replayed every moment in her mind, every laugh, every glance, every touch. What must he have thought of her? Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Liam sat in his office overlooking the skyline. The gala photos were already on his desk, printed and waiting. His assistant, Mark, hovered nearby. "Sir, the press is asking for a statement. Do you want me to tell them she was just a guest?" Liam stared at the pictures for a long time before answering. "Tell them nothing. It was one night. Let it fade." Mark hesitated. "Understood." When he was alone again, Liam leaned back in his chair, the memory of her laughter still echoing faintly in his mind. She had looked at him without the calculation he was used to. No expectation, no angle. It had been disarming, dangerous. That evening, Claire sat in her small apartment, scrolling through job listings she could barely focus on. Her phone buzzed again, a new message from an unknown number. "You left your bracelet at the gala. L.H." She froze. Her hand instinctively went to her wrist, and sure enough, the silver bracelet her mother had given her was gone. She typed back quickly, "Thank you. I can come get it tomorrow." His reply came seconds later. "Meet me at Hart Tower, Muria. Ask for me directly." Her pulse quickened. She almost typed a refusal, but curiosity pressed stronger than pride. The next morning, the city air was sharp and bright. Claire walked into the glass building that bore his name. The receptionist smiled politely as if she had been expected. Moments later, the elevator doors opened to the top floor. Liam stood by the window, the skyline behind him. When he turned, his expression was calm, but not cold. He held the small silver bracelet in his hand. "You did not have to come all the way here," he said, quietly. "I wanted to," she replied. "I did not want to leave anything behind." He hesitated before offering it to her. "You did not. Some things stay whether you mean them to or not." Their hands brushed as she took it. The air between them shifted again, heavy with everything that had not been said. Claire looked up at him. "So, what happens now?" Liam's lips curved in a faint, complicated smile. "Now, Miss Evans, we stop pretending." Outside, sunlight spilled across the glass, and for the first time, the line between a deal and a beginning completely disappeared. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The office was quiet except for the steady hum of the city beyond the windows. Claire turned the bracelet in her fingers, her reflection caught in the glass. She could see her own confusion there, mixed with a spark of something she could not name. Liam broke the silence first. "You handled yourself well at the gala," he said. "Most people would have panicked under that kind of pressure." Claire gave a soft laugh. "Most people would not have begged a stranger to pretend to love them." His eyes met hers. "Maybe not, but you made it believable." Her pulse jumped at the way he said it, calm yet deliberate, like every word mattered. "That was the deal," she reminded him. "Yes," he said quietly. "That was the deal." There was a pause before he added, "I have a proposal. Not like before. Something professional." She blinked. "Professional?" Liam gestured to a file on his desk. "I am launching a new charity branch of Hart Resorts. Community arts programs, event design, mentorship for young artists. You have experience and taste. I need someone to manage the creative direction." She stared at him, uncertain whether he was serious. "You want to hire me? I want to give you an opportunity," he corrected. "You have talent, Claire, and I owe you a favor." Her throat tightened. "You do not owe me anything. You saved my job that night." "Perhaps," he said, "but I would rather think of it as an investment." He slid the file toward her. Inside were documents stamped with the Hart Foundation logo. The position was real, the salary more than she had ever earned. Still, a small voice in her mind whispered that it was too good to be true. She closed the folder slowly. "Why me?" Liam hesitated. "Because you are honest," he said, "and that is rare in my world." For a second, she forgot how to breathe. Then she nodded, trying to sound steady. "All right, I will do it." He smiled faintly, the kind that did not reach his eyes but felt genuine all the same. "Welcome to Hart Foundation, Miss Evans." The following weeks blurred into a rhythm of work and unexpected warmth. Claire found herself in meetings with people twice her age, yet Liam always treated her as an equal. He listened when she spoke. He trusted her instincts. Every morning, she passed the framed photos on his office wall, gala openings, hotel awards, handshakes with politicians, but one picture stood apart. It was a candid shot of a woman laughing beside a seaside balcony. The frame was slightly tilted, as if placed there in a hurry. One evening, after everyone had left, she noticed Liam standing before that photo, his hand resting on the frame. The look in his eyes was distant, almost haunted. "Was she someone important?" Claire asked softly. He did not turn around. "She was my wife," he said. "She passed 3 years ago." The words landed between them like a quiet storm. Claire wanted to say something, but nothing felt right. She simply stood beside him, the silence speaking for them both. Finally, he said, "I stopped attending events after she died. The gala was the first one since then." Claire looked up at him. "Then, why did you go?" He glanced down at her, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Because a stranger asked me to." For the first time, she saw the man behind the title, the loneliness, the exhaustion, the fragile humanity he had buried under success. As they left the office together that night, the elevator doors reflected two figures walking side by side. Not billionaire and employee, not benefactor and recipient, just two people learning how to exist in the same fragile space between gratitude and something that might one day become love. And somewhere deep inside, Claire realized the impossible truth. The contract had ended, but her heart had not. The next few weeks passed in a blur of meetings, late nights, and quiet victories. Claire had not expected the Hart Foundation project to grow so quickly. Under her direction, the team transformed empty spaces into community art centers, blending luxury with warmth. Every morning she arrived early, coffee in hand, and found Liam already there, sleeves rolled up, studying reports with the intensity of someone who had built everything from nothing. He was demanding, but never cruel. When he offered feedback, it was clear, precise, and always followed by a question that made her think harder. She began to understand why people feared and admired him at the same time. He led with silence, and yet everyone listened. One Friday evening, after the office had emptied, Claire found herself in the conference room, surrounded by sketches and color swatches. She had been preparing a presentation for the upcoming gala that would launch the foundation's first scholarship fund. Liam appeared at the door, his tie loosened, the exhaustion in his eyes softened by something else concern. "You are still here," he said. Claire smiled faintly. "I wanted to finish this before the board meeting. I do my best thinking when it is quiet." He stepped closer, scanning the table. "You have a talent for bringing warmth into cold spaces." She laughed softly. "It is easier when someone believes in what you are doing." Liam paused, his gaze lingering on her. "I believe in you." The words hit her harder than she expected. She looked away, pretending to straighten a page, but her hands shook slightly. "That means a lot, truly." He noticed the tremor, but said nothing. Instead, he reached for one of the sketches, a design for the stage backdrop featuring silver lights arranged like constellations. "You see stars in places most people overlook," he murmured. "Maybe I just like reminding people that light still exists," she said quietly. Their eyes met. For a few long seconds, the world outside the glass walls disappeared. Then the elevator bell chimed down the hall, breaking the spell. Liam cleared his throat. "Do you have dinner plans?" Claire hesitated. "Are you asking as my boss or as my friend?" He almost smiled. "Tonight, I am not sure I can tell the difference." They ended up at a small Italian restaurant tucked between office towers, the kind of place where the lights were low and the owner greeted guests by name. They talked about everything except workbooks, travel, the absurdity of life in the public eye. For the first time, Liam laughed freely, without the restraint that usually guarded his every word. Halfway through dessert, Claire asked, "Do you ever wish you could just disappear? Leave the business, the meetings, the pressure?" He nodded slowly. "Every day, but I do not know who I would be without it. Maybe you would be someone happier," she said gently. He studied her, the corner of his mouth lifting. "And what about you, Claire Evans? If you could start over, what would you be?" She smiled. "Someone who is not afraid to take a chance." The conversation faded into a comfortable silence. When they left the restaurant, the city air was cool and clean after a light rain. Liam offered his coat, but she shook her head. "You already saved me once," she said. "I will be fine." He walked her to her car anyway, hands in his pockets, that same quiet protectiveness in his posture. Before she got in, he said softly, "You make it hard to keep things professional." Her breath caught. Maybe that is not such a bad thing. He took a step closer, but stopped himself. "Good night, Claire." "Good night, Liam." As she drove away, she glanced in the rearview mirror. He was still standing under the streetlight, watching her leave, his expression unreadable. Inside her chest, something fragile and terrifying began to bloom, something that no contract could define or control. And for the first time, Claire let herself wonder if pretending had ever truly ended. A week later, the city was buzzing with news about the upcoming Hart Foundation Gala. It was the company's biggest event of the year, and for Claire, it was both the greatest opportunity and the greatest pressure she had ever faced. Every design, every color, every word on the invitations had passed through her hands. Yet beneath her calm focus, she could not stop replaying that night at the restaurant. Liam's quiet laugh, the way he looked at her when he thought she was not watching. Since then, something between them had shifted. The air in the office carried a soft tension, unspoken but unmistakable. They still worked as professionals, but each glance lingered longer than it should. Every accidental brush of their hands felt like a silent confession neither dared to voice. On Monday morning, Claire was preparing for a board presentation when Liam walked in unexpectedly. He looked different, tired, guarded, as if carrying something heavy. "The board wants me to confirm our guest list," he said. "It is going to be a high-profile night. Every investor in the city will be there." Claire nodded, trying to steady her heartbeat. "Everything will be ready." He studied her for a long moment. "I do not doubt that, but I need you to know something before the tangent noise starts." Her eyes lifted to his. "What kind of noise?" Liam hesitated, then handed her a printed document. It was a gossip column headline. "Hart Billionaire linked to foundation designer romance rumors spread before gala." Claire's stomach dropped. "They think we are—" "Yes," he said quietly. "They think we are together." Her voice shook. "And what will you tell them?" Liam leaned against the edge of her desk, his expression unreadable. "The truth, I hope. But you and I both know that the truth is not always what people want to hear." She stared at him, anger and fear twisting together. "So what happens to me when they find out I am just an employee? Will I be another story they use to humiliate you?" He stepped closer. "No one will touch you, Claire." Her pulse raced. "You cannot protect me from everyone, Liam. You are a businessman, not a savior." "I am trying to be both," he said quietly. Their eyes met, the silence between them heavy with everything they had not said. Finally, she turned away. "Maybe we should keep our distance until the event is over. It will make things easier." Liam did not argue. He only nodded once, the smallest flicker of disappointment crossing his face. "If that is what you want." For the next few days, Claire threw herself into work. She avoided his office, buried herself in schedules, and convinced herself that distance was the right choice. But every night, when the lights dimmed and the city turned to silver outside the windows, she caught herself thinking about his voice, his restraint, and the warmth in his eyes that contradicted every rule he had written. The night before the gala, she stayed late to finish the stage layout. Liam appeared again, as if drawn by instinct. "Still here," he said softly. "I needed to make sure everything is perfect." Lated. He looked at the glowing model of the ballroom on her desk. "It already is." Their eyes locked, the world shrinking to that quiet office and the hum of the city below. For once, he did not try to hide what he felt. "Claire," he said, his voice low, "when this event ends, I want to tell you something real. No contracts, no pretending." She felt her heart stumble. "You should not say that unless you mean it." "I have never meant anything more," he said. She could not answer. The sound of her heartbeat filled the silence, louder than the traffic outside. Somewhere deep inside, she knew that the line they had drawn months ago no longer existed. As Liam turned to leave, he said quietly, "See you tomorrow night." The door closed behind him, but his words stayed. Claire stood in the empty office, staring at the city lights reflecting on the glass, realizing that whatever secret he was hiding might soon change both of their lives forever. The deepest secrets are about to change everything. Subscribe now to catch the dramatic twist that is coming. In the next chapter, the night of the Hart Foundation Gala arrived, and the city glowed beneath 1,000 lights. Cameras lined the entrance, reporters filled the steps, and flashes painted the marble facade in bursts of white. Inside, the ballroom sparkled with gold and silver, the kind of beauty that looked effortless, but had taken weeks of sleepless nights from Claire to perfect. She moved through the crowd quietly, checking every detail one last time. Her black evening dress was simple but elegant, chosen to blend in rather than stand out. Still, people noticed her. Whispers followed her name like smoke. That is her, the one from the article. When she caught sight of Liam across the room, her breath faltered. He was surrounded by investors and reporters, his composure unshaken, his smile perfectly polite. Yet when his eyes found hers, something unspoken passed between them. For a moment, the noise of the crowd faded. Then a familiar voice shattered the calm. It was her former boss, Martin Hayes, the event director who had once fired her in humiliation. He stood nearby, speaking loudly enough for others to hear. Well, if it is not Claire Evans. From decorator to headline scandal, I must admit, you move up quickly. Claire's face burned, but before she could respond, Liam was suddenly beside her. His expression was cold, every trace of charm gone. Mr. Hayes, he said evenly, I believe the success of this event belongs to the woman you are mocking. If you cannot recognize talent, perhaps that explains why she succeeded without you. The crowd around them went silent. Martin's smirk vanished as Liam turned to Claire. Come with me, he said softly. He led her toward the balcony, away from the flashing cameras. The night air was cool, carrying the hum of the city below. Claire folded her arms, trying to steady her voice. You did not have to defend me again. Yes, I did, Liam said quietly. Because what they say about you is not true. She looked up at him. Then what is true, Liam? He hesitated, his jaw tense. What is true is that I let this get out of control. The press, the rumors someone on my board leaked it to discredit the foundation. They want to force me to resign. Her heart tightened. Why would they do that? Because they think caring makes me weak, he said. They think you make me weak. Claire's eyes widened. And do I? He looked at her for a long moment, then shook his head slowly. No, you remind me that I am still human. The sound of applause rose from inside as the host began to announce the foundation's opening. Liam straightened his tie, his voice low. Whatever happens next, stand tall. You have earned your place here. As they walked back toward the golden light of the ballroom, Claire's heart pounded with a mix of fear and pride. She did not know what storm was coming, but she knew one thing for certain this time, she would not walk away. The applause inside grew louder as the host introduced the evening's keynote speaker, Liam Hart. Claire watched him walk to the stage beneath the dazzling chandeliers, his face calm, his posture unshaken. Yet she could see the tension in his hands as he adjusted the microphone. Every camera in the room turned toward him, waiting for a statement that could either save or destroy everything he had built. Good evening, Liam began, his voice steady. Tonight was meant to celebrate generosity and community. But before we continue, I need to address something that has taken the spotlight away from our mission. The crowd shifted uneasily. Claire's breath caught as he continued. In the past week, the media has painted a story about me and someone who works for this foundation, he said. They called it a scandal. They said it was a distraction. But what they did not say is that she is the reason this event even exists. A ripple of surprise moved through the audience. Claire felt her knees weaken. Liam's gaze found hers, and for a moment, the room seemed to fall away. She brought life back into a project that had lost its heart, he said. She reminded me that success means nothing if you cannot share it with integrity. So if you came tonight expecting a denial, you will not get one. Because the truth is, she changed me, and that is not a scandal. That is a gift. For a long moment, no one moved. Then a slow wave of applause began, hesitant at first, then stronger, until the entire room was standing. Claire's eyes blurred with tears she tried to hide. After the speech, Liam stepped down from the stage and walked straight toward her. I told you, he said softly, no one will touch you. She could barely speak. You did not have to risk everything for me. I did not do it for you, he replied gently. I did it because I was tired of living behind a lie. Before she could respond, his assistant, Mark, hurried over. Liam, the board is furious. They want a meeting tonight. They are threatening to pull funding. Liam gave a small, weary nod. Let them. If they want my resignation, they can have it. The foundation will stand with or without my name. Mark looked stunned. Are you sure? Liam's eyes never left Claire. Completely. When Mark walked away, Claire turned to him, her voice trembling. You cannot just give up everything you built. He shook his head. I am not giving up. I am finally choosing what matters. The orchestra began to play again, a slow, hopeful melody that filled the room. Liam reached for her hand. Dance with me, he said. She hesitated only a second before nodding. They moved to the center of the floor, surrounded by people but wrapped in their own quiet world. His hand rested at her back, steady and warm. You once said pretending made you feel brave, he whispered. But this is real. Under the glow of the chandeliers, Claire realized that for the first time in her life, she did not feel small. She felt seen, and as Liam held her close, the chaos around them faded into a truth that neither fame nor fortune could ever buy. The following morning, sunlight streamed through the tall windows of the Hart Foundation office. The newspapers were already on every desk. Billionaire defies board, chooses truth over power. The photograph beneath the headline captured Liam, standing at the podium, with Claire watching from the crowd, her expression full of quiet pride. By noon, the board members gathered for an emergency meeting. Claire waited outside the glass conference room, her hands clasped tightly. Through the frosted panel, she could see raised voices, gestures, the blur of disagreement. Then, after what felt like hours, the door opened. Liam stepped out, his tie loosened, his eyes calm. "They voted?" she asked. He nodded. "They accepted my resignation." Her heart sank. "Liam, I am so sorry." He shook his head. "Do not be. They wanted control. I wanted freedom. I would call that even." He smiled, but it was not a smile of defeat, it was relief. "The foundation will continue under your direction," he added. "They all agreed after hearing your numbers. You earned it." Claire's eyes widened. "You cannot be serious." "I am very serious. You built this from the ground up. I am only setting it free." She stared at him, struggling to find words. "What will you do now?" Liam looked toward the window where the city stretched endlessly beyond the glass. "I think I will finally take a break from being the man everyone expects me to be." He turned back to her. "Maybe try being the man I want to be with you, if you will let me." Claire blinked back tears. "You do not need my permission to be happy." "Maybe not," he said softly, "but I want your company." A quiet laugh escaped her lips. "Then I guess you have it." Months passed, and the world moved on from the headline. The Hart Foundation thrived under new leadership, focusing on real change rather than publicity. Liam sold part of his empire and invested in the communities that had once been overlooked. Together, he and Claire traveled, opened new centers, and built something that mattered far beyond any ballroom speech. On a spring afternoon a year later, they stood on a small coastal terrace overlooking the ocean. It was the opening of a new art retreat for young creators, the dream Claire had once thought impossible. The air smelled of salt and jasmine, the waves whispering below. Liam reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was the same silver bracelet he had once returned to her, now fitted with a tiny charm in the shape of a star. "You gave this back to me once," she said, smiling. "And now I am giving it back again," he replied. But this time, not as something lost, only as something found. He slipped it onto her wrist and met her gaze. "Thank you for asking me to pretend that night. You gave me the one thing money never could have reason to be real." Claire's eyes filled with tears as she whispered, "And you taught me that love does not have to be perfect. It only has to be true." The wind carried their laughter across the sea, soft and endless, as the world around them seemed to pause for a heartbeat of peace. Thank you for joining us for this cinematic adventure. If you want more untold stories of billionaire love and redemption, please subscribe and choose your next true heart journey on your screen now.